I think we're going to get started. As you know, we're all very excited about our presentation of the Tel Dan Stele, which will be on view from December 5th through January 5th. And this session is an opportunity to learn as much as we can about the stele before it goes on view, and a chance to learn in detail about its significance. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Eran Arie. Dr. Arie is an archaeologist and cultural heritage researcher in the Leon Recanati Institute for Maritime Studies and a senior lecturer at the Department of Cultural Heritage and the School of Archaeology and Maritime Cultures, University of Haifa. For his PhD, he investigated the Jezreel Valley from the end of the late Bronze Age to the formation of the monarchy. For his postdoctoral studies at the University of Haifa, he later dealt with the archaeological and historical background of the Phoenician settlement in the north of Israel and its relations with the Kingdom of Israel during the 9th to 8th centuries BCE, the period of the Tel Dan Stele. Dr. Arie served as curator of Iron Age and Persian period archaeology at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem from 2013 to 2020, and directed and curated the Hecht Museum at the University of Haifa during 2021. His current research focuses on different aspects of Persian period material culture, and he also works closely on the publication of objects from various museum collections and their social, religious, and political significance. His recent book is An Object Lesson, Rediscovering Iron Age Artifacts from the Israel Museum Collection. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Arie, who will be in conversation with our own James Snyder.
Thank you so much for the presentation and these warm words. And I'm very excited to be here with you. Let's start already. I'm starting.
Wait a moment. Wait a moment. Nellie gave a wonderful introduction, but you all have to know that I had the privilege for around 16 years to work with Eran when he was Iron Age First Temple curator in the archaeology wing of the Israel Museum. It really was a privilege. This one is brilliant. No, really, he is brilliant.
I'm flushing, I'm
And it's an unbelievable privilege to have him here. I think Eran was last week at a conference in Boston, and on the way back he offered to be in New York to stop, and I felt that because we're bringing the Tel Dan Stele here, it would be important to get a real dive, to experience a real dive into what it is and what its meaning is from someone with the depth of knowledge that Eran has. I mean, we don't know what a stele is. I do, because I spent a long time in Israel. I knew nothing about any of this before I got there, and this one had a big part to do with my understanding the archaeology, the importance of the archaeology of the ancient land of Israel. And you know, people, when I say we're bringing the Tel Dan Stele in, they say, what's that? And I finally figured out a simple way to answer is to say that a stele is an analog Instagram, right? Is that okay?
Yeah.
It's called an analog Instagram.
Definitely.
But it's very important for all of us really to understand the meaning of this object. And that's why it's a privilege to have Eran here. His knowledge about the intersection of true archaeology and biblical narratives of the past is very special. You don't often find it. And you know, many of you know that I clutch this book a lot. Pharaoh in Canaan, in my view, might be the most important and the best done exhibition of archaeology of the ancient land of Israel ever done. It's about the story of the 500 years when Egypt ruled in what would become the ancient land of Israel, at that really important time that might have been the start of the notion of monotheism and might have been an intersection with the narrative of what we consider the story of the Exodus from Egypt and, you know, the whole narrative of what would become the story of Passover. And Eran did this exhibition stunningly well, and we all felt that given his ability to tell a story like this in all of its complexity, to have me here for an hour talking about the Tel Dan Stele would be something amazing. So now we want you to begin.
So now I'm a bit more nervous even. So it's good to be here, and thanks again, James, also for your kind words. And let us start. I just say that you are really receiving the Mona Lisa of the Israel Museum, and definitely of the archaeology wing of the Israel Museum, a very, very important object that was ever found in Israel. So basically, wait a second. Okay. So this is Tel Dan. You can see in the map. It is located to the north of the Sea of Galilee, just on the border of Lebanon, of modern Lebanon, of course. It's in the northern part of the Hula Valley. In the past, it was the swamps, just to the north of the Sea of Galilee. It's a quite location, you know, far away from the centers, the main centers of Israel, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah, but it's a very prominent and large site. It's about 20 hectares in size. Just in comparison, for example, Megiddo, Armageddon, in the same period, is about 12 hectares. Jerusalem, depend who you are asking and depend how you're calculating it, but Jerusalem in this period, the period that we'll speak about in the 9th century BCE, was something about, again, 10, 12 hectares. Later on, it became 60. This is the biggest city of the Iron Age, so it's a big site. And as you can see, it's very rich in water. You can see here, this is a photo taken that you can see from the site itself. How can I? Okay. So this is the site. This is, of course, the border of Lebanon, between Israel and Lebanon. Kiryat Shmona, for who of you who knows it, and Metula, which are today in the news. But I put this slide especially because of this. This is Mount Hermon, and everything here in the valley is very rich in water because of the Mount Hermon, and of course, when the snow melts, all the springs are very, very rich. So this is it, and this is the site itself from the air, and it's very unique in that way that there is a spring in the middle of the site. This is the entire site, the 20 hectares, but there is a very rich spring. Actually, the richest spring in Israel is just almost in the center of the site. And you can see here the River Dan, that is one of the sources of the Jordan River. And you can start seeing the archaeology. So there are actually three main places that were excavated here in the south, in the east, and in the north. And we'll speak about them in a second. This is a plan of the site. So, and the excavator, Avraham Biran, Dr. Avraham Biran, the head of the Nelson Glick School of Archaeology in the Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem. He excavated there for more than 30 years, from 1966, just a year before the Six-Day War, when the site was just on the border of Syria. And it was a very long expedition. And the site, as I said, the main three areas, each one of them, different finds and very important finds were found there. So we'll start with area Q and then with area T. And at the end, the stela was found here in area A. So basically area K, sorry, I said Q, but area K, of course, this is a gate, a very rare gate, complete one, from the Middle Bronze Age, 1800 BCE. It was preserved so amazingly because it was buried in the ancient times. It is made of mud bricks, and its arch or vault is complete, as you can see. It's very hard to preserve this kind of complex. That's why the park authority constructed, you see that it is roofed in order to protect it. You can't pass through the gate, not for now, maybe in the future it will be able, people will be able to do it. Area T in the northern part of the Tel is basically the sacred precinct of Tel Dan. We know it, of course, from the Bible, the famous story about the golden calf of Jeroboam I, who put it in Dan. We don't have any evidence for this story. Actually, we can negate this story due to archaeological excavations. But anyway, this is in one phase of the finds. You see here what Biran called Bama. It's actually the temple of Dan. This is the temple. There are these stairs here that going toward the temple. It's only, unfortunately, only the foundations of the temple were preserved. And in front of the temple, there was a very large horned altar. It's here, and it was reconstructed in metal. Only one horn was found in the excavations. If we are speaking about monumental architecture and we want to understand how temples look like in those days, and maybe to understand better how the temple in Jerusalem was looking like, these are royal architectural elements that were found in Tel Dan. These volute capitals were probably put on top of pillars or pilasters. Others were found both in the kingdom of Israel and Judah, in Jerusalem itself, of course. They are made of the local limestone. And not far from there, there are other architectural elements like this amazing basalt pillar from the right, and this very interesting installation that we will speak about it maybe later. It was placed in the gate, but you can see here these column bases, carved column bases, look a bit like cabbages. They are very unique. They were found only in Tel Dan. So basically, both the pillar and the bases are very unique in regard to the architecture in Israel and Judah. And if we are thinking about a temple, how the temple looked like in those days, we have this temple or model shrines made of pottery. They are small, about 30 centimeters. How do you say it in inches? I don't know. 12 inches. Okay, thanks. So both of them are presented in the Israel Museum, but you can see that both of them, in the facade of the temples, there were two very prominent pillars, exactly as the biblical description of the Solomon temple in Jerusalem. Even in the Bible, we have the names of the pillars, Jachin and Boaz. And actually, this pillar here from Dan is the only pillar, real pillar, that was found in Israel complete. And you can see that it matches the architecture in the model. So basically, these petals, falling petals, match these pillars in the right models, and the volute capitals matches this model here. Here in the center, you can see a dove, probably representing Asherah, one of the goddess of the Canaanite goddess that were still worshipped also by the Israelites. So we start to understand how temples in general look like, but also the temple in Jerusalem. Moving to Area A in the southern part of Tel Dan. So basically, the excavation revealed the main complex of the city wall and the city gate. And this was what Dr. Biran found here. You can see the very massive city wall that was later on also reconstructed a bit by the park authorities a bit here. And if we are looking inside, this is the main, this is the main entrance to the city. So as you need to turn to the left when you are going into the city, but if you will look to the right, you will see this. These are 5 standing stones or small stelae that are just lying on the floor, almost on the floor. They are about 12 inches, I would have say, maybe a bit bigger. But it's definitely a cultic installation that was placed inside the gate. And another cultic installation with additional 5 standing stone is this one, is just to the outer part of the city gate. We know, of course, from the Bible, that the area of the city gate was very important, both in relation to its cultic realm or to judge. We know that part of the people were judged by the elders in the gate complexes of the cities. And inside the gate, if you're turning to your right, you see this installation that we just saw with these cabbage-like pillar bases. And you see that there was supposed to be something here. It's like a stage. And the question is, what was standing here in a very central place in the city in the gate complex of the city? And we will answer, of course, this question in several moments. Outside of the gate, we saw, so basically this is the main city gate. The last photo was taken from here. You're turning to the left and again to the right, and you're getting into a very large passage with an upper gate here. But if we are looking at the outer side of the gate, we see this regular building, just maybe another smaller gate here. It's not part. We are in the outer part of the city, so it's not protected or well protected area. And Biran decided to excavate it only because of the park authorities. They wanted to do some preservation in order that people will be able to walk here on this plaza, paved plaza, and to go into the city. So we decided to excavate here, or been asked to excavate here. And after the excavation, or at least 1 or 2 seasons of excavation were done, he arrived one day with his architect, and without that anybody will be actually there, it wasn't during the excavations, he found they were measuring the stones in order to have good plans, and the architect, found this stone here. So this is the big part, fragment A of the stela that will be here. It was broken or smashed and was used in secondary use as a building stone in this wall of this phase. So somebody smashed the stela, and it was an amazing, this is in 1993, and you can see here the gate complex. This is the main entrance that we saw before, and this is the find spot of fragment A, just to the entrance of a smaller gate that was found here. Probably it is later than the construction of this phase, and it was preserved very bad. So it is still not really well published. So we are still waiting for all the details. So after they found this amazing stone, they published this fragment, and they decided in 1994 to go back to the field and enlarge the excavations, looking for other fragments of the stela. And amazingly, they did. So they found 2 additional fragments that were joining together, so together they are fragment B, but this is fragment B1 and B2. And they are really joining together very easily. Fragment B1 was found outside of archaeological context during inside the field, but fragment B2 was found here. Just this is the main city wall that you saw before. Maybe I'll show you. It will be in a second where it was found, and it was quite amazing. They are smaller than the first fragment, but each letter is important in this case. Afterwards, there were, I think, 1 or 2 seasons of excavations, but nothing was found. And the people from the HUC, the Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem, are still, they have their plans or dreams to continue excavate there and to find more fragments. Until now, they didn't do it. I really hope they do it. They will do it one day. And here is the entire inscription as it is today. About the connections between the first fragment, fragment A, and fragment B, there are a lot of debate. Basically, there is no connection on the face of it, of the outer face. There was a claim of Biran that there was a connection in the in the back part of the stone. I think that when it will be presented here, you will hear about it. I don't want to ruin the HUC news, but I think for you it would be great because the Tel Dan Stele is about to be in the news again because of this, because there are new revelations about the connection of the 2 fragments. So this is it. These are the places where they were found. So you can't see it. So fragment A, fragment B1, and fragment B2. This is the city wall, the main city wall, and it was found just on this pavement. And this is, of course, Avram Biran celebrating his find. He was very, very happy, naturally, to find this amazing stone. Here is how it looks in a photo. So the main city gate, and here is the small gate. This is the wall that fragment A was found. Fragment B was found here somewhere in the field, and fragment B2 near the wall, the city wall, just here. And basically, the outer part of the city, this area, Biran interpreted it as a market. He called it chutzot. Chutz in Hebrew, it's the outer part. He believed it a market. I don't really think it's a market. It's some kind of places that people either lived in or some kind of places for caravans to arrive to the city. In any event, there are several structures, several layers of structures, one on top of the other. All the fragments of the stones were found on the uppermost layer. So C is the lower one, B on top, A on top, and the phase that you saw before, this one, is the layer, the uppermost level, and where the fragments were found. And this is the text of the stela, the translation, of course. First of all, the text itself is in Phoenician script and in Aramaic. In this time, why they didn't write it in Aramaic script? Because it was not invented yet. We are speaking about around 830 BCE. So basically, the Phoenician script was the most, let's say, spread out script in this area. But the language is Aramaic. And as you can see, we don't know the name of the king who writes it, but he's speaking about himself. So according to the historical reconstruction, we can assume, and according to all what we know from the Bible and from extra biblical sources, we can deduce that it is Hazael, king of Aram Damascus. Hazael was the most important king that ruled Damascus ever, I think. And he ruled both, again, according to the Bible and to Assyrian sources, he ruled from Damascus, bless you, to the almost the entire Israel. We know a very large destruction layer in Gat, in Philistia, in the southern coastal plain of Israel that he destroyed. And maybe also we know from the Bible that in Jerusalem they took out a booty to bring him that he won't destroy Jerusalem, the king of Judah. So I don't want to read the entire stela. You can do it, and I'm sure that you will. But I want to read or to speak about the phrases or the words that are I marked in red. So the king, he said that, and the king of Israel entered previously to my father's land. So we are speaking about borders, problems between Aram Damascus and Israel. That's why Hazael is putting his stela in the gate of Dan, probably. That's why it was, when it was smashed, it was left in the area of the gate. And he says that Hadad is the chief god of Aram, or Aram Damascus. He said that Hadad made him king. And we know that Hazael, according to the Bible, he was an this is a hard word, usurper? Yeah, okay. So that's why probably why he's not speaking about the fact that he is the son of a king, but Hadad made him to be king. And then he speaks about his victories, of course, like every king who boasts about his victories, and he says that he slew 70 kings, but especially he's speaking about two kings. I killed Joram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, and I killed Ahaziah, son of Joram, king of the house of David. This is the main sentence. That's why this stela became so important. Of course, if Joram, son of Ahab, is the king of Israel, so Ahaziah, son of Joram, is the king of Judah. But Judah is not called in this stela Judah. It is the name, yeah, is the house of David. And we know from other inscriptions that the names of dynasties are called based on the name of the founder of the dynasty. And this fits exactly, of course, the biblical narrative that David is the founder of the dynasty of Judah. And that's why Ahaziah is called, is the king of the house of David. So this is the text, and the house of David is the mention, the fact that David is not, okay, the stela is dated about 150 years after the biblical chronology speaks about David. David ruled Jerusalem around 1000 BCE. I'm saying around because David ruled Jerusalem for 40 years and Solomon for 40 years. We assume that these are not real years of reign. We assume that the number 40 is a typological one, and it has. We need to think about it better, or to find. We hope to find evidence, more accurate evidence. But anyway, we are not speaking about David himself. We are speaking only about his dynasty. But the fact that David appears here, this is, of course, the only appearance of the name of David in extra biblical source from the Iron Age, or from the time of the Bible. So even though it's 150 years after David, that's why it's so important. But Hazael is boasting of killing Joram of Israel and Ahaziah of the house of David, but the text actually contradicts the account of the book of Kings, 2 Kings, according to which Joram and Ahaziah were killed by Jehu, who subsequently seized the throne of Israel. We know that Jehu is doing a revolution. Yeah, he's taking the throne of Israel from the house of Omri, the father of Ahab. And so we have here both evidence for the narrative that fits exactly the narrative of the Bible, but on the other hand, the story of these 2 kings that were killed by the king of Aram Damascus does not fit the biblical narrative in 2 Kings. So this is how things are getting complicated when we are speaking about archaeology and history and the Bible. When we speak about this installation that we saw before, we have a very interesting, another example, not far away, about 30 kilometers from Tel Dan, Tel Bethsaida, maybe biblical Bethsaida of the Second Temple period. Just at the enter of the gate, another Aramean city, just at the entrance of the gate, we have this, again, like a stage, a small stage. Here it's with 3 steps. On top of it, here they really found a stela. So this is how a stela look like. It's a standing stone. There are 2 stela here, one plain just below this stage, and one with this moon god on top of it. And this one is now in the Israel Museum, Jerusalem. It's presented there for about 30 years. And this is what we need to maybe to imagine when we are speaking about this installation. We can assume that there was a stela on top of it. We can't be sure that it was the stela of the house of David or the Hazael stela, but maybe there was another one. But I think that it's quite obvious that there was a standing stone that was placed here in the past. Why it was smashed, why it was taken out of here, this is the question of the relations or the history of the borderline between Israel, Aram Damascus, and maybe 2 additional Aramaic kingdoms, Geshur and Maacha, and of course the Phoenicians that sit here, Tyre and Akko. So actually Dan is situated just on the border between these entities, and the fact that it changes hands, so it was once Israelite and then Aramaic and maybe again Israelite, so probably when Hazael is taking over Dan, he's putting this stela or stone to commemorate his victories, that each person that walk through the gate will know that Hazael, he's the king, he's the ruler. But later on, when the Israelites are taking over, they are taking the stela out of this installation, this stage, smashing it, and then placing the stones in secondary use as just building stones. Okay, so just to end with a question, did Israel and Judah have royal inscriptions? So we know now the Hazael stone or an Aramaic inscription. What about a royal inscription from Israel and from Judah? So basically we have some very interesting other royal inscriptions around the Middle East or the ancient Near East. This one is very famous. It was found around 1870 in Diban in Jordan, the Mesha stela. Again, it's from the same period as the Hazael stela from Tel Dan. Here you can see it was when it was found, it was complete. Here you can see it smashed and mended, but it's a long story, but but this is how it looked like originally, and we can again think about the Tel Dan stela, that when it was complete, maybe it looked like something like this. But anyway, it's Mesha, king of Moab, is writing, it's commemorating again his victories, and maybe at the lower part is also mentioning the house of David. There is a debate about it, but maybe there are remains of these letters. So this is one. Another very famous one was found also in the 1990s in Tel Mikne, Ekron. So this one is Moabite. This one is Philistine. It was found in a temple commemorating the construction of this temple in Tel Mikne, Ekron. There is another one, another Aramaic one from Tel Afis in Syria, not far from Aleppo. Again, Aramaic like the Tel Dan Stele. So where are the royal inscriptions from Judah and Israel? So here they are. Unfortunately, there are only fragments for now. We are still waiting that archaeologists will find the complete ones. But you can see that all three fragments were found in the capitals of Israel and Judah. So Samaria, only 3 letters, Aleph, Shin, and Resh. Samaria is the capital, of course, of the northern kingdom of Israel. And from Jerusalem, there are these 2 pieces, fragments, again, in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. Fragments that maybe this one relates to some kind of a water system. We are not so sure. And this one, it's too fragmentary even to think about place. But all the 3, we can be sure that they were very impressive inscription. And I wish, as a scholar and somebody who is interested in the past, that we had the entire story of them. So that's it. Thank you for listening.
Eran, you're not done. To speak personally for a moment, really being a modern art historian and going to the Israel Museum, you can't imagine what a wellspring of knowledge opened for me when I got to the Israel Museum and worked with Eran and the other curators in archaeology, beginning to understand this incredible intersection between the Bible and material archaeology. It's like the connection between the mythology and the reality of the Holy Land. We're not talking about Israel or Jordan or Lebanon or Egypt. We're talking about the mythology and the reality of the Holy Land. And the Bible is foundational for this. And then you find all these stones everywhere, and they verify the truth of the existence of these sites. And then it's about how do you build the narrative, and where does it come from history, and where does it come from mythology? This is why, for me, an exhibition like Pharaoh in Canaan was so moving. And this is why it's going to be so moving for us to have here on site this one example from history from 900 BCE, which, you really can call an analog Instagram. It's like delivering a message etched in stone from 900 BCE.
830.
Oh, well.
This is my archaeologist is coming alive.
830 BCE. 9th century BCE. And it really is very moving. And we need to come to the point of the House of David. I mean, this is the narrative of the monarchy of King David. And it's a story, and I think it's very important for all of us to hear you speak about this. This is a story about the beginning of this narrative of monotheism, which over the 1,500 years after this time would enable the birthing of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And really, nobody thinks about this. No one thinks of this common root of origin for these 3 faiths, which have such a complex relationship today. It will help us to hear you talk about this, because this is what we're going to want to talk about for the 6 weeks that we have the privilege of having the Tel Dan Stele here.
Okay, so it's a very complicated issue, of course, but I want to say that you have to remember that in the ancient world, dynasties were ruling for shorter or longer periods. In the southern Levant, in the land of Israel, the dynasty, the Davidic dynasty, is the longest that ever ruled until its time. So there were 22 rulers from the house of David that ruled successively, one after the other. All of them were kings, except of one queen. The queen was not from Judah. She was actually the daughter of Ahab. She married a king of Judah and later seized the throne. Never mind. But it's important that all of the kings were fathers and sons. So again, it's something I would say even unnatural in terms of ancient Near Eastern dynasties. And if we are thinking about this 400 years of Davidic rule in Jerusalem, I think the main, or one of the main historical events was in 701, when the Assyrians arrived. Sennacherib campaigned, the Assyrians conquering the entire ancient Near East, but they are spreading only one city. It's Jerusalem, of course. And I think this is maybe one of the ideas what gives this city and its settlement this idea of, something, coming from heaven or to save them. And it starts, maybe the pan-Israelite idea starts somewhere there. And of course that in 586, when the Babylonians arrive, they are destroying Jerusalem. And then only the idea of this amazing dynasty stays, and it's becoming even more important, more central to the story first of Judaism. But the fact that Jesus, of course, according to the New Testament, is part of this dynasty is not, it's something, of course, that put him inside this amazing story to connect between his time and the past amazing time of the first temple. And later on, of course, it became part of, the Islam is constructed on top of the Christianity faith. So basically everything is on the three elements of Judah, Jerusalem, and David. So everything is about it.